Stars of Silicon Valley were harassed in an LA bar. They were called Cucks. I didn't even know that this was a derogatory term. I've never heard this term. I don't even like saying it because I don't even know really what it means. Is it that bad?
The term cuck is old.
Will you tell our viewers what that means?
So when you're cuckolded, typically that means that your significant other has cheated on you. And it goes back to the term for cuckoo birds who lay their eggs in other people's nests. And so that's where it comes from.
The alt-right uses that word cuck to like a lot of liberals.
To say that you weren't strong enough. When you show any sign of weakness, when people like Mark Zuckerberg are told, hey man, you're posting all of Trump's media and it's hateful, it technically violates the terms of service. When Mark Zuckerberg looks around, and maybe he was smart and maybe he went through all the right channels, but if he's perceived as being like, yeah, but I was too afraid to do anything about it, that means you're being a cuck.
Well, that
comes back to like white people who are
but
if you want to be the most like cynical about it, which it's okay because it happens all the time. It's like, listen, don't apologize for being white. Be strong and powerful and put people in their place. Otherwise, you're being a cuck.
It also derives from masculinity, like Brett kind of talked about earlier. But it's a type of porn, is cuckolding. Now it's a type of porn where usually. Men will watch their wives or significant others get penetrated by another man.
That's the one time I didn't bring up a porn thing before someone else. I'm proud of myself.
And that's partially what they're referring to as well. It's like this person is so not masculine that he is enjoying someone else violate his wife.
And the alt-right uses this as a derogatory, they say this in a derogatory way. So, according to Kumail Nanjiani, he took to Twitter, he and Thomas Middleditch, they were out at an LA bar. This was after the election, after Donald Trump was named president-elect. Kumail, he first tweets, was at a bar last night with Middleditch. At the end of the night, two white dudes, 20s, who'd been there for hours, came up to us. They said, we're a big fan of you guys, to Thomas. I trolled you on Twitter yesterday. He goes on to say how we're wrong about Trump. I go, hey, we don't want to discuss politics here. His friends go on, oh, they're cucks, then start yelling at us, cucks, cucks, cucks. Thomas put his hand on dude's chest to stop him. Don't touch me, you cuck, want to go outside. At this point, the bouncer runs over, grabs them, kicks them out. The bartender is awesome and apologetic. Thomas and I are stunned. This happened at a bar in LA surrounded by people. I can't imagine what it must be like to be someone who looks like me in other parts. We can't let hate, racism, bigotry, sexism be normalized. If something happens, be safe, but let it be known we won't stand for this. We thought internet would give us access to people with different points of view. Instead, it gives us access to many people with same point of view. And then Thomas Middleditch, he then tweeted and shared some of the same sentiments and then said, for no reason, two dudes came at us with Trump right-wing shit, calling us cucks. Never in my life. I hate this week. One. Thoughts? 5 words or less.
This cucking sucks.
Cuck's my favorite word.
Everyone, just sleep it off.
HBOMG. I'm so sick of this, and this is coming from both sides. We're seeing this rhetoric coming from both sides. However, I just watched a video last night that made me cry. It was in a high school or a middle school in Royal Oaks, Michigan, where some white kids were chanting, build a wall, build a wall, build a wall, and then you see Latino kids in the classroom crying. And again, I know that this rhetoric is applying to both sides, but it's like one side is already disenfranchised, and then you're reinforcing that, and it just, the fear. I have a friend that's an undocumented worker and her daughter, and she sat in my living room and she cried because she fears what will happen to her and her daughter. And that's just, and she's a hardworking, amazing, incredible woman, pays her taxes, and it's just, this fear is real. This fear is real right now.
Yes, it is. It's sucky. And there's a lot of people who are looking around after a Trump election and saying, what's going to happen? What are the things he said that will come to pass? And no one knows. And that uncertainty is
people
terrifying.
chanting, build the wall, or echoing what he said.
There are, it is
Trump
normalized that he has said, like, we're going to deport 2 to 3 million people and then see what happens next.
By the way,
we're going to build a fence, not a wall, but like shit's happening.
I also think it's different to say like it's coming from both sides, because it is coming from both sides. But I think that when we talk about it in that way, it normalizes Trump's candidacy. And I'm not saying that Hillary was a flawless candidate at all whatsoever. But I think that being like, well, like some Hillary supporters are are angry, and they are, and they're protesting. But it's a very different rhetoric that we're hearing from the Trump side of things. I do believe that. I think that
there's been some pretty shitty things too coming. That's not true. There's been some shitty things coming from a lot of anti-Trump supporters. One of them holding, whether this is fake or not, now I don't even know what to believe. But one of them holding up a sign to rape Melania, like standing out front of Trump Tower. Like there's you got to own that there's shitty things from both sides.
There is shitty things, but it's very different,
right? Because one is already
he's in power,
and one is already an oppressed, disenfranchised group of people that he targeted and is bringing this hateful, discriminatory rhetoric up again. I agree with you, but we got to point out both sides.
Guys,
but it's I just feel like it's not the same from both sides.
No,
it's not the same.
No, but it doesn't. But it doesn't matter because in the end of the day, now that Donald Trump is president, we need to wait for him to take certain actions. I've had long, extensive conversations with people about their protesting of Trump, and it's first of all, it's directionless at this point, which is really doing that entire progressive community a disservice. If you're just going out and screaming from the top of your lungs that like Donald Trump shouldn't be president, you're essentially not conceding to the democratic institution that we were initially criticizing Donald Trump for not willing to concede during the election. Like and he didn't even go out and tell people, hey, protest in the streets if I lose. He just said, I don't know, I'll look into it, I might not concede. And now we legitimately aren't conceding. He hasn't even done anything yet. He said he's going to appoint the worst kind of people, and he hasn't condemned his previous actions. He went on 60 Minutes when he seemed like a more normal, better put together person, and eventually the media will...
He did say stop doing it. He did look to the camera, and he did tell people out there to stop doing it. I agree. You can laugh, but at least he said something.
No, but...
Believe me, I'm not a Trump supporter at all.
To go back to the people in the streets.
He should... Hold on, I got to get this out because I don't want you chuckling to make it look like that I support Trump, but by Trump saying stop doing that, it's a step. He should actually have a full speech and actually address the things he said and say that this isn't okay, and this needs to stop. We all need to be one rather than his blanket statements of just saying we need to unify, not divide.
And there are people in the streets, like my friend posted that she was in downtown LA and there were hundreds of thousands of people or thousands of people shouting, my choice, my body, my choice, together. So there's things that are happening. And I do think generally having groups of people together in places, whether it's directionless or not, is a statement. This is us all doing something together. But I think you're right. There needs to be specific things people are saying.
Yeah, homeless people make statements all the time. They yell around. They walk down the streets yelling.
Yeah, but I don't think you can equate the protesters to homeless people.
No, but what I'm saying is it's directionless. It needs to be aimed at something. Otherwise, you're just yelling and then you're contributing to the polarization.
It's not, Hasan, it's not necessarily directionless if you get some comfort from it. If you are out there in the streets, I know a lot of my friends have been in a lot of these protests. Because to them, they find some comfort in being around like-minded people who are also feeling really scared and really hurt and have the sense of community. And then when you get that sense of community, then you can organize and then you can, I know I am a part of a lot of groups right now where we're looking where we can volunteer, where we can help out. But we wouldn't have had that if we hadn't expressed our collective anger together.
It's a great point.
I think that, I agree with you. I think that just yelling like, fuck Trump, I don't think that does anything. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. And I know that that's how I felt right after the election and that wasn't constructive. But I think that when you find like-minded people that are also hurt, that are also scared, you can mobilize. And I think it's important to do so. I think that it's important to feel your anger, but then to also, to use your anger to do something, to change the system. If you're upset with it, you got to do something to change it. So I don't think it's wrong to organize. I don't think it's wrong at all.
There's a time and place for mobilization, and if we are playing our hand way too early, it's going to exhaust people. It's going to move more people from the center towards the establishment because they're going to think, and there are a lot of people already thinking like, well, Donald Trump seems like a normal dude now all of a sudden. We kind of half expected this to happen, and now it's happening, and the media will play a massive part in normalizing Donald Trump and saying like, no, guys, calm down. That was just election. Donald Trump is totally different. New Donald Trump is different than that. And and when he does pass legislation that directly affects our lives in that sense, when he does curb or completely stop progress in that sense and take takes back civil liberties that we fought for the past 8 years, that's the time to revolt. If you revolt right now, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Like you're revolting right now. It's aimless, it's directionless. You're just doing it because you get a sense of community. Go get a sense of community by, like you said, joining a group of like-minded people.
That's how you meet them.
That's not how you meet them.
That's how you
meet
meet
them. Like,
oh, come on. There's a difference. And that's what we've been talking about all day, is a difference between individuals, flesh and blood, and this weird cloud of quasi sameness that we find on the internet, on Facebook, like this strange nebulous echo chamber of people out there. It's different, and I do believe it's better to see the faces of individuals. And within any group, we've proven within any group, there's the people who go crazy. We've highlighted them on the Young Turks. There, whether you think it's different, there are people within each group that are nuts, but at least during that, you can see people face to face and realize that these are flesh and blood individuals who are affected by it. And from then, I agree, there's an overreach danger. I don't think we've necessarily hit it yet. Maybe we're close.
We're just validating the feelings of Trump supporters, and I'm worried
You're
that,
right about
but
that.
they've validated the feeling of our supporter.
All good points. I think everyone's points are. I think we're all coming from the same place. I agree. God, we could keep talking about this. So please keep the conversation going. We want to know what you have to say. Share your thoughts, and we'll see you next time.